we have to, I mean, if you got common sense and you know anything about economics, we are in a recession.
Right.
I mean.
Well, it depends. If you change the definition of recession, then we can say we're not in
well,
recession.
I agree, but usually it's when.
All right, so if you haven't been paying attention to the news and headlines and everything going on, which we all here do quite a bit, you may think it's been a slow news week. There's actually a lot more going on. We're gonna get into that in just a second. We're talking about monkeypox. We're talking about what I'm calling the Inflation Perpetuation Act, and we're talking about Brittney Griner and potentially some other things. Welcome to Relevant Rants. I'm so glad to be back. I was out for about a month, and then I had COVID. I'm feeling a little bit better, but it's an interesting thing going through COVID.
I love it, Mike, because you're talking about COVID. Schools are getting ready to start.
Yeah.
And we see confusion again because LA school district said they're going back to masks, and then they got pushed back, and they're not. My wife's a superintendent, so she's already made up her mind. We're not going to masks. So this is a big deal.
We're calling it confusion. I thought it was just Democrat policy.
Yeah, well, that could be. But as we go there, now we're hearing about monkeypox.
Yeah.
And as we have monkeypox, you caught COVID, and I think we can all not get monkeypox if we withstand.
Pretty sure I will not be catching monkeypox.
Activities, and as the government wants to create another form of an emergency condition that out of monkeypox, I think it's just plain to say that if you stop certain behavior, it's going to cut down on a lot of the cases.
Well, it's pretty obvious how it's transferred, right? I mean, they've narrowed it down.
We're all getting a visual picture based on what's coming out now. And so
it's sexual contact, and it's primarily one type.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've got a wife and you're faithful, you probably don't have to worry. And I mean, she's got to be faithful too, or whatever your situation is.
I think all of us can be in that boat.
I'm not too worried.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And so, as we go out there, I really have compassion for this, and I do think that they've got some type of a cure for it because there's a vaccine out already developed for it. So there again, I don't see why it's going to come
Isn't that in itself an interesting thing? It's just like, hey, here's a disease. Well, we already had the vaccine before the disease. Like, how is that possible?
Because it's been around.
Yeah, it's been around.
Because it's been around, but now it's trying to, we're being told that everybody could come up with this condition. And I think if you withstand certain activities, you'll have a good chance of not all the percentages there, but a large
very high percentage.
Very high percentage. So there again, I mean, we're being vague because I think we should. I mean, we don't want to put a PG-17 label on our show, but I think if you want to go do some research, and we suggest you do that on everything we talked about.
Right.
Come up, be convinced yourself.
But I think it's my personal opinion that this is just another thing that they want to influence policy.
Behavior.
They want to influence what people are thinking about. They want to influence news and headlines. And we have a midterm election coming up, and one of their big pushes now is that they're calling the Inflation Reduction Act, right? And I was talking to you guys about this before, and I was like, okay, so inflation is being caused by a lot of demand and low supply, right? And pumping
trillions of dollars into the market,
which creates demand, right? More people have more money, so they can buy more stuff, which
that doesn't exist.
Right. There's not enough stuff, so like if there's a limited supply, you have more money. Like those things are going to cost more naturally.
It just drives the price up.
So in the so-called, and I'm calling it the Inflation Perpetuation Act, because hey, let's do more of what's already causing inflation, and that's somehow going to drive down inflation. That doesn't even logically make sense, right? So, there's been this big push, and they're calling it a bipartisan bill, right?
Yeah, share with us a little bit for the people that don't know.
Okay, so there's a whole. This was basically based off of the original Biden's, which I changed the name of, Build Back Worse plan. And
they wanted to do it, but they want to do it cheaper.
Right. So that was originally like trillions of dollars, right? But they couldn't get it passed.
Right.
So now they're like, oh well, let's come back and do the Inflation Perpetuation Act, and they're calling Inflation Reduction Act. You're going to reduce inflation by doing more of the same thing that's causing inflation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that makes sense.
They're calling it a bipartisan bill, right? which is very funny because only the Democrats want it, and not even all of them. They had to persuade Joe Manchin, West Virginia, to go in and agree to vote for this, but only by giving him certain things that were going to help West Virginia. Let's see if those things actually come to fruition, right? Probably won't. But then the last holdout was Kristen Sinema in Arizona. So Sinema this week finally decided, I'm gonna go ahead and vote for that. And the House is split evenly, or not the House, the Senate split evenly, 50-50, right? And
they're going to break that with
Vice President Kamala Harris. So you're telling me that a bipartisan bill barely gets all of the Democrats to vote for it, and the deciding vote has to be the vice president. Yeah. Anyway, so they're throwing a bunch of stuff out there, but really it's in an effort to say, oh, look, the Democrats are doing things, getting stuff done.
And two, we have to, I mean, if you got common sense and you know anything about economics, we are in a recession.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean.
Well, it depends. If you change the definition of recession, then we can say we're not in recession.
Well, I agree, but usually it's when the GDP is 2 months in the negative. Right?
That's been the historical consensus.
It is the saddest thing in the world watching. I always mispronounce her name, but anyways, watching her try and just come up with answers to the questions being asked, and like, you're in a recession. Well, not technically. It's like the weatherman when they go.
Yeah, we changed the definition, so we're technically not in a recession.
It's like the weatherman, right? It is 75 degrees out with a little bit of wind chill. Feels about like 72. It's like, okay, but we all know it's still 75. It just feels a little cooler. Okay, we're in a recession. Say whatever you want. Like, yeah, if you're under a tree, it feels better. It's still 75 degrees. It's still a recession.
Right.
We've called it this for 50 years now. We've used this same measure to determine recession.
Right, but they're using this as a budgetary measure. Basically, it's a spending bill, right?
Yeah.
But they're calling it a budgetary measure to avoid the filibuster, right? So that's one of the ways to avoid a filibuster is by making it a budgetary measure. Well, it's really just a spending bill on a bunch of liberal Democrat policies that, frankly, nobody wants. But it's in an effort to say, oh, look, Biden did something good right before elections are about to happen.
Right.
And like they just had this vote in Kansas to keep the in their state constitution to protect the right to kill your baby. And like they're like, oh,
speaking of, did you hear the comment, the unconstitutional overturn? Wait, if it was what just happened to my head? It is unconstitutional turnover of Roe v. Wade. I'm like, wait, if it was constitutional, it wouldn't have been overturned. Are you now making up your own definitions for constitutional now?
But so they're saying this is a big win in Kansas, and look, oh, the Democrats are taking ground. Really, like you look at the whole thing, that people didn't want to vote on this issue. Now, specifically, it was worded in a way that was kind of confusing, which tends to happen anyway. That's if you're not paying attention, right? But and most people, if they don't know what something is, they're going to vote no. So there's got to, like, I'm certain there was a certain percentage of people that were like, oh, no on changing the Constitution, which if I didn't know anything about it, which I would make sure I was informed anyway, but let's just say I didn't know anything about it, and someone said, hey, let's change the Constitution, I'm going to say no too, right? But they're using that as a big Democrat win when really it's not, right? You look at the turnout, and this is in a primary. There was a massive difference between the number of Republicans that turned out and the number of Democrats. There was like 250-something thousand Democrats that turned out for this primary election. Again, primary, not a general, which it's going to be smaller anyway. And then there was I think 450-something thousand turnout for Republicans. Mm-hmm. So you're saying that, oh, Democrats are going to win. No, this is this one specific issue. People didn't want to change the state constitution, right? So anyway, going back to the spending bill, the Inflation Perpetuation Act. Again, my words, not what they're calling it, but they're saying,
Mike.
Right? They're saying, oh, we want. Look, the Democrats are doing something really, like they're trying to hold as much ground as they can.
Sure.
So, but and we've seen it before in my lifetime, in your lifetime, and definitely in your lifetime.
I've seen a few.
Where Republicans can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory when we're facing a very significant potential likelihood probability of a red wave coming in November. Mm-hmm. well, now we're trying.
I think they saw what was on the other side of it. It was like everything was like, oh, Trump, we hate it, we hate it, we hate it. Let's try this. Oh, hold on, not that. Let me turn back around, flip around.
So
you gotta love it. You know,
it's a pendulum. It swings.
It does. And I this is what I really truly believe, and this is what Mike and we were talking this morning in a Bible study, that I think people want authenticity.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think they want to be lied to anymore. I don't think they want to see us wordsmith anything, where our definition is based on how I present it with my words, or if I can convince you of a definition.
Well, that's the Democrat agenda. It's like, are you male or woman, or male or female? Well, whatever I feel like being. Well, okay, are we in a recession or not? Well, it doesn't really feel like this. No, it's like at some point.
Well, if you change the definition of what it means, then sure.
No.
At some point, there's fact and there's fiction. And it's like.
Yeah. Well, we live in a fairy tale land now.
No. People appreciate, I think, authenticity. And so many people have been lied to for so much.
Yeah.
And then we're hesitant to buy into something else. I mean, you know, if you want to, talk about what we've seen with the vaccine for COVID, are we getting told the truth or are we not? We're up to 4 boosters, or, where are we going with this when we were told all we needed was a vaccine? Yeah. I just think people are to a point like, stop.
Yeah.
Just tell me the truth.
Well, and Tom, I think
based on what the truth is,
and I think Kyle knows this, and I would agree with this. Like, our whole intention isn't just to make content for you guys to watch. Hopefully, we're informing you guys. Hopefully, you guys get some value out of this. But it's to be a force for good.
Yes.
Right. So we have some big announcements coming up in the near future. We're going to be. I'm not sharing it with you today, but we're going to.
But you want to?
Yeah, I do. But there's some,
I keep clapping and it messes up.
There's some big things coming up.
Some
big things we're working on. I'm really pumped about. Really excited. But we want to be a force for good and make a difference, not just put out content, which I think is good for people to be informed.
And we don't want to take sides because we love people.
Right.
I mean, that's something that I was talking about over and over again, is the Bible says that love cancels out a multitude of sins. Josh Vietti told me, and I'll keep saying it, that people won't be mad at you for loving them too much.
Yeah.
But I think loving people also is telling them the truth.
Yeah.
And giving them a chance to make a decision. So sometimes we're just sitting here talking, and I think we can even go back into, our basketball player in Russia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is what I'd like to say about Brittney.
Who's a basketball player, by the way?
USA's. Not yours.
I don't know if it's USA. Is it anti-USA basketball player?
Well, everybody has a beef with the fact that the position she took on the anthem, but I want to say I respect the ability to protest something because of the First Amendment.
Yeah. It's just ironic.
Well, but I'm just saying.
Ironic.
So I want to support the right to protest. So she's protested something, and now everybody's holding that as a fact of should she do jail time or not. But Mike, I do agree with your definition, which I think is very clear and concise. When your child goes to somebody else's house, you want them to respect their rules.
Yeah.
Because that's what they should do.
But I think, and I agree with you, having her rights. But it goes back to a time when Ludavia worked at a coffee establishment. Yeah. I'm not going to name any names, but she was saying, yeah, we're going to put up an American flag at our house. One of her coworkers very ignorantly said, "What are you, a Nazi?" It's like, for putting up an American flag?
That's honestly the stigma right now. And if you have an American flag sticker, or if you have an American, you're looked, he must be a right wing person.
But behind
wait,
us.
what? Because of an American flag?
But my response to that, and what I thought was so stupid, is everything that flag stands for is what gives you the right to make an ignorant statement like what you just made. Yeah, so you wouldn't even, in any other country, you would probably go to jail, maybe even worse, for making a statement like that.
Yeah.
But yet here in America, the flag stands for your freedom to make an ignorant statement like that, and you're calling us Nazis for saying that.
And people gave their life for that right to be able to say that, but it doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
But it protects their right to say that. And so as she's out there, I've said it before on the show, I think, United States, because she is a citizen of our country. She broke Russia's law, the way they've laid it out for their, visitors and their citizens, that the Americans should basically try to state her case for her. But now that she's sentenced for 9 years, I understand the United States government's wanting to swap a prisoner, and I go back and I say, but don't we have other United States citizens that are in a position she is, that
in jail right now?
Their parents are fighting for their rights too, and so maybe she should be farther down in line, and some of these other.
Maybe she will use her platform to publicly advocate, if there's an exchange made, to publicly advocate for all the people that are in prison for the same reason she's in. Yeah. And then I'd say, okay.
But what we're doing is we're trading one anti-American for another anti-American, right? We're
well, and it's not apple for apple. What the guy that they're proposing we do a trade or transfer swap with, it's not like someone who had some low-level charge, right?
Right.
I mean, what was he charged with? He's a spy,
high-level spy,
amongst other things. And it's like, okay, that for her. Can we get anything else? Do we have anyone else to offer?
You're equating it to real estate. You want a fair deal.
Yeah, just give a fair deal. That's not fair.
Well, we're trading an anti-American for an anti-American.
True.
That's what Mike's saying.
Yes.
Well, because she was not quiet. Well, in Mike's defense, she was not quiet about her thoughts on the national anthem. She requested that it not even be played before basketball games, and then once they were playing it, she refused to stand. She'd kneel. It's like, if you have a problem against an injustice, speak out against that, not against the flag. The flag represents something bigger.
Right. Well, we all want to rally around patriotism. I think that's something our country
right? That's unity.
Is there. I mean, we all know soldiers that have given a lot, either their life or a limb, but they went out there to make that sacrifice so people would have that right to protest. But I think sometimes you can pick the wrong battle, and then all of a sudden you find yourself entrenched in it. There again, people can make choices. I love people's choices, but you've got to be able to, what I say, if you play, you got to be able to pay.
Yeah.
So if you make a choice, there's a responsibility to the choice.
The whole thing was she was saying, well, I forgot or I didn't know. Like, first of all, I don't buy that. You go over there regularly. This is like, and I've said this before, even on video, to a country that's knowingly, openly hostile to the U.S., break their laws, and like, oh, I forgot or I didn't know. Baloney. I don't buy that. That's something my 4-year-old son would say, right? You're more mature than that, or you should be. Maybe you're not, but
well, it takes me back, and I just thought of it when you were saying that, Mike. We used to have a missions trip into Mulegé, Mexico. So we'd fly down to Mulegé, Mexico, and there was, as you came into Loreto, there was a small airport, and there was usually the same guy that was there, and he was checking baggage. Now, it was a very interesting way they checked baggage because it was a stoplight. It's like you push the button, and if it ended up on red, he checked your bag. If it ended up on green, you didn't. As I went there long enough, I know I kept telling I've been around long enough that somebody can not like you just because of the way you look. So I could always tell that he wanted to check my bag. But the light was always depicting the fact that he could check my bag or not. So as I saw that, I didn't have anything to worry about if he checked it or not because I didn't have anything bad in it. So the day it turned red and he checked my bag, he was one happy guy. But I'm like, there's nothing going to be in my bag. But he was really excited. It's like, because we went down quite regularly once a month. And he was ready, and it was funny how I just kept getting green, and I could see the look on his face, and he was like, oh. And it got red, and so he checked it, and there's nothing in it. And I looked at him, and I go, so you really thought you were going to find something? I've been knowing that you're getting ready to check it. If I was going to bring something bad, I wouldn't do it just because I know you're excited to be able to get me.
Yeah.
So it was funny because I did that.
Yeah. So you have anything more to add to that topic?
Just irony, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Do I think that anyone deserves 9 years in jail over that? Not a chance.
No.
I think that's extreme. I don't think it's fair. But do I think it's mildly ironic? All of these things. Oh, if she was LeBron, this would be different. I don't know. If
I would hope not.
Yeah, I would hope that it'd be the same.
Yeah.
In fact, it would be because Russia would not care.
I don't think anybody should be treated differently because of a status.
Well, I will keep going back to this, and we're believers in Christ, But it's when we do something wrong, we want mercy and grace. But when somebody else does something wrong, we want wrath for them. You know? And I think that goes back where we have to basically realize that people are human. They're going to make mistakes, and you would like to see everything applied fairly.
Yeah.
Consequences.
So
fair enough.
Hopefully this has been informative. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this conversation. This has been Relevant Rants. Talk to you soon. Bye.